What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is the Deep Dive. And today we're going to do a little bit different. It's going to be a deep dive into Sarah. Normally we get up here and Dave's here and we talk about the sermon and all that good stuff. But Dave's away. We haven't had an actual real Nick and Dave podcast in like a month.
Oh, he'll come back.
He'll come back, right?
Maybe. He might like the other coast
He's
better.
on a cruise doing something out there. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited you're here.
Me too.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about some of your favorite things, talk about some of your other roles and stuff like that. And you're the youth pastor. We didn't say that, so welcome on. How's that going so far?
I absolutely love it.
Do you?
It's super fun. We have a good crew.
We do have a good group. All right, well, let's get into it. All right, Sarah, I figured for this first time that you're on the podcast, we're really trying to let people get to know you some.
Okay.
And I'd like to start off by kind of doing some of your favorites.
Okay.
So I'm just going to kind of say one and you just reply and we'll talk a little bit about it and all that good stuff. You ready to go?
All right. Listen, I should preface that I am an Enneagram 7, so favorites are hard.
Okay.
Because they are always changing. But there are my go-tos that I will consider as my favorites.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take
Okay.
that. Enneagram 7. All right, favorite movie.
My favorite movie of all time is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Ooh, why?
Because the scene where the chocolate comes rolling down does something to your soul, and then it just makes you believe that good things can happen in the world.
Okay. How about favorite band?
My favorite band is Need to Breathe.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, man.
Favorite meal? Like if you were in jail on murderer's row, death row, and they were saying, here's your last meal forever, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. But like, honestly, it would be pizza. I don't know what kind of pizza. It would depend on the day that we were in, but it would be pizza.
You are an Enneagram 7. It changes depending on the day. Okay. All right. Favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal is Cocoa Pebbles.
Oh, I don't like chocolate cereals.
Why?
I just don't.
But
Never
if you
have.
have a chocolate cereal, then when you're done with it, you have chocolate milk. Then you don't have to just drink like cereal milk, and it feels wasteful to throw it away. But you have chocolate milk, which is delicious.
Would you be mad at me if I said I don't like chocolate milk?
Oh gosh, I will not be mad, but
Did
I
I
will
just
be
get
praying
disowned?
for you. I'm adding you to our church prayer list.
I'll take it. I could always use prayer.
Why
Always
do you
use
not
prayer.
like chocolate milk?
I just never did like it. I don't know. I like some chocolate candies, but I've never been like a huge chocolate person. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like it's always got to be with something else. Like I would not do a Hershey's chocolate bar by itself. I'd need a s'more with it, or it to be a part of something else.
I'm just gonna let you have it. I don't understand that, but I'm gonna
You
let
have
you
to let
have
me
it.
have it. It's mine. It's mine. All right. Favorite type of coffee?
My favorite type of coffee is a mocha.
Ooh.
I can get it from anywhere, and it makes almost anywhere, and it makes me happy.
Okay. Almost anywhere.
good, yes.
Have you had a bad mocha?
Yeah.
Where at?
Listen, we're all
Put
just
'em on
going to be
blast.
really honest here. Dunkin' Donuts is the worst. Never had a good mocha from Dunkin' Donuts. Ever.
I think the whole Curtin family might be driving to your house right now to fight you.
Listen, if they would like to prove me wrong, they're welcome to. But never have I ever had a good one.
Okay. Favorite activity to do with friends?
Whatever we are feeling that day, that's a hard one. We like to just watch movies, me
Okay.
and my people. And do we ever watch the movie? No. But we sit with the intention of watching the movie and put it on. And then we just hang out whilst watching the movie.
Okay. So kind of maybe
So
general
that's what I
hangout.
love.
Yeah. Yeah. The seasonal movies, the talking, the hangout, the
Absolutely.
popcorn, whatever. All right. Favorite vacation destination?
People who know me are prepared for me to be like Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
But no, if I could
Oh.
go anywhere, I would go back to Austria. It's beautiful. And it was
Ooh.
so fun. It was lovely. It was a
What-
good time.
Tell me a little bit about Austria. I've never been.
It's like the middle of the wonderful forests of Europe. It's so pretty. And there was so much to do. And I have a deep love of seeing like good old cathedrals. And there was plenty of them to go see. Like, it was just a good time. It was fun.
Why, so maybe fill in some people. Why were you spending time in Austria?
So my summer before my senior year of high school, I went on a band trip, which I was not a band person. I was a choir person and got put on a band trip to go and tour Europe with a band of other high schoolers for the summer. And so one of our stops was in Austria. I actually played the triangle and decided to go outside of the lines and play what I thought would be fun ad-libbing, and I got in trouble and lost my opportunities to continue playing with the band. So I just had fun on the trip and sat in the background and cheered them on.
Fair enough. You almost got kicked out of the band for your triangle playing.
We were doing an Elvis medley, and it just needed a little extra. So I gave it a little extra, and
It wasn't appreciated.
it was not appreciated.
They did not see your art form.
That was my mistake. Never been in a band again.
Now, was that high school in States high school? Or because if y'all don't know, Sarah's my sister-in-law, so I know a little bit about her. Were y'all living overseas at that point?
I wasn't. So when we lived overseas, I was in elementary school.
Okay.
So we were actually here in Georgia. I went to high school at North Cobb.
Ah, okay. There it is. Go North Cobb.
Go Warriors.
Wa-
I was very enthusiastic about my school mascot.
Okay.
I did great.
All right. Well, now, what's your favorite so would that be your favorite vacation ever as well? Because that was my next question. It was like,
That's not true. Oh, I went on a week-long trip with a friend out to California.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite vacation.
okay.
Wasn't my favorite vacation spot? No. But it was a really great vacation.
Okay.
We just went a little bit of everywhere and did a little bit of all the things. It was fantastic.
That is like a Seven's paradise.
Exactly.
Doing a little bit of fun of it, doing everything. All right. Now, since we are a church podcast, favorite Bible verse?
My favorite Bible verse is Psalms 116, verse 2, which says, "Because he bends down to listen, I will pray as long as I have breath." And I love it.
Why? So you got to. There's always a story of why would you find your favorite verse? How did you find it?
I honestly don't know how I found it.
Okay.
But I just know that I love it because it's a good reminder that, like, my words feel very useless in prayer half the time. And I'm like, I don't feel like you, sometimes it's that you don't care. And sometimes I just don't feel like I'm so small that my words are important enough. But the fact of the matter is that he does take time to actually bend down and hear what I have to say. And that matters to me, which means that it matters to God. And I think that that's really special.
That is cool.
I really love that verse because it's just a good reminder that my words actually do matter to God to some extent.
It's a good visual of the relationship aspect of it. You know, sometimes we feel like God's way up there and we're way down here, but to kind of give us like that bend down of like, hey,
Yep.
I'm here with you, you know. And mine is, if God is for us, who could be against us? And it's a kind of a similar thing is that like God's side by side with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not he's far away, but it's like if I'm here in trouble, like he's right there with me. You know, like I always kind of imagine it's like that big bodyguard-esque type, you know, like standing kind of behind you, like, do you need something? You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just that community of being in relationship with God, I think is awesome.
It's sweet.
It is sweet. All right. Well, you also, so you're a youth minister here with us. But you haven't always been a youth minister. As a matter of fact, you also hold a separate role right now, doing foster care stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it? Just kind of tell your story of foster care.
Cool. So I do foster care recruitment and foster family and our staff training for our crew. I very haphazardly walked into the foster care world. I actually went to an organization to volunteer, and they said, well, it sounds like you're trying to apply for a job. And I was like, I'm not. And they said, cool, well, we have one available. Would you like to apply for it? And it turned out that the church I was going to at that time, the woman who was doing the interviewing went to church with me, and she was like, oh, I would love for you to be here. So I put in my resume, I did the interview. I had zero experience in this field at all, and they were like, come be a case manager with us. So I learned trial by fire what the foster care world was like, and we got to see the really good goods and the really terrible terribles of all of the things that happen. But I learned in that while I love foster care and I love working with the kids, I loved even more the fact that there were parents and families that were saying, hey, we are here and willing to do something really hard and really heavy, and we feel like God's calling us to it, and we want to walk into it. And I loved more so being on the end where I could be their cheerleader and say, let me give you as much preparation as I can. Let me do all that I can to hold your hands so that you can do the good, hard, and heavy work of fostering. So when I left case management, I got to move into a role of training our foster families, which is hands down my favorite because I get to be someone that can come alongside them and remind them that they're capable, that you can do this, that it's hard and it's heavy, but there are a lot of tools out there for you to utilize. And you are the person God has called to do this. And we believe in you, even on the days that you don't believe in yourself. So I like being able to be the person to cheerlead them on 1,000% of the way because they are the people that have stepped up to the calling.
Oh, that's so cool. So it kind of sounds like you're kind of the support system for them to make sure they feel able, equipped, and all that good stuff. Is that pretty?
Yeah.
That's cool. When so was this something that you kind of fell in love with along the way, or like because you said you kind of got thrown into it?
Yes.
Like, when did you like fall in love with it? I guess. Because you've worked for a couple of organizations that deal with foster families at this point, right?
I have.
Yeah.
And I think that I really fell in love with foster care when I had a case that went really wrong. And I saw that there's spaces where these kids have nothing and they need advocates. And then seeing who God puts in places to advocate for them is when I fell in love with the good things that happen in the system. And knowing that just because it's hard, like when you walk away from it, that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
But when you're willing to stick out the hard and you're willing to be there and support the people that do it, or you're willing to be the person that does it, like that's when the changes come that our system desperately needs.
Yeah.
So I think that was really when I fell in love with it, was seeing people really fight hard because they saw the value in kids who didn't know that they had value themselves.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for social work and the hard labor that goes into that because, I've always worked with kids in my life, and people have asked like, oh, you should do foster care stuff. And I was like, I don't think I could put it down. Like that's got to be the world's hardest thing is it's like getting to know these kids or these families and then like having to turn it off when your work hours are done or whatever. And, some things you're in for a calling and you don't really do work hours at that point, but it's still like, because I'm sure some of the stuff you see is like just unimaginably not great.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to put that stuff down. So
it is.
But
it is.
I think they need positive people like yourself. I think that's something I admire about you is just the way you kind of approach it with always a positivity, always looking to help, and even in what you were saying, of just I love being able to come beside the families and stuff because some people might get into it and be like, this will be easy. I can help out. I can be a part of this. I'm just going to do my good. And then all of a sudden you're getting a kid that has this traumatic past that you're having to navigate and kind of massage a little bit. And it's probably not as easy as you signed up for, I guess.
It is never as easy as people think it's going to be.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing it. It just means that you might need a little more prep work on the front.
It also doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I mean, that is well said because they need good people in their world. I mean, they need consistency, they need structure, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's people out there that have that ability that maybe don't know it. And I know part of you said you do recruitment. Is there a little recruitment, like the elevator speech that you could kind of talk through, maybe let people know that if they can get involved, maybe if they wanted to come find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with Crossroads Foster Care and Adoption, and we are actually based in Union City, which is like South Atlanta. But if you are interested in fostering or adopting, you can find me on Sunday at church. You can reach out to me at my email here. You can call us over there. There are a lot of great child placement agencies in the state of Georgia. So if we're not a good fit for you, I am happy to help you find one that is a good fit for you. Working with a child placement agency just offers you some additional support in your journey of fostering and adopting. So there's a lot of great resources and ways to get involved with foster care in our state. So yeah, if you would like to come and talk to me about it, I would absolutely love it. It is hands down my favorite thing to talk about.
And if you've ever just had that little bit of a nudge of like, I would like more information, going to talk to Sarah does not mean you're signing up for anything.
No, not by any means.
You know what I mean? And even if there's maybe some other volunteer opportunity, just there's a need here. And I mean, it's a growing need. It's not something that's ever feels complete, or you might make a little headway in one area, but there's other things, from what I understand at least. I've never been in the system myself, but from what I've seen from the outside,
there is constantly a growing need for foster families.
Yeah.
Right now in the state of Georgia, we actually have a lot of kiddos who, when they are pulled into care, we don't have enough open foster homes once they're pulled into care. So they're either staying overnight in the DFACS offices, or they're having to go to a hotel and stay through just a round of strangers that are meeting their needs throughout the night, which is awful and really hard and really heavy. But that's a good space for people to come and be in. Like, it is a very needed thing in our world right now for there to be open and available homes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different options. You can be an emergency placement, which means that you have kiddos that are in there for a brief period of time before they move on to a permanent placement. You can be a long-term placement for these kiddos. Sometimes that turns into an adoptive placement. It just depends on the kiddos. So there's a lot of different ways and avenues to be able to engage with these kids, be able to help them on their journey, and just touch them in some little way, like as they're going along.
And I know the question I'm about to ask could probably be a podcast in and of itself. So is there an initial, I guess, myth out there about fostering that you would like to debunk that's like, people think a certain way about it, and that you could just be like, no.
Nick. I think the hardest myth that I hear constantly from families is that they are coming into this with the intention to foster to adopt. And we, especially in our agency, but I know that case managers across the state, we do not like the phrase foster to adopt. And it's not something that we ask you to come into this with. So we ask for you to either come in and be ready to foster these kiddos and help send them back home, or we ask you to say, like, we are ready to add someone else to our family and we're ready to adopt. When you foster, we ask that you partner with these kiddos' parents, because the goal is for these kids to be able to go home and be reunified with their families, as long as it's safe, because that's where they belong. That's where God has originally placed them. Like, if we can help those parents along the way, we want these kiddos going home. And when you are thinking that you are ready to adopt a child, sometimes that gets in the way of really being there to help that family understand what it means to parent their child, and making sure that you're there to be able to support them in that journey of getting their kids back. Yeah. So we like to say that, while people say all the time, we just want to foster to adopt, we're not going to do that. You can foster, and sometimes that turns into an adoptive option. Yeah. And at that point, like, yes, let's broach that. But if you're coming into foster care with the heart that you're ready to add someone else to your family, go ahead and be set up to adopt. Yeah. Because there are a lot of kids in the state system that desperately need a forever home. Mm-hmm. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah, it almost sounds like when you say foster to adopt, the thing I could think is like, yeah, that does almost kind of sound like you're test driving a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, which I can understand people wanting to do that to a certain extent of like, I want to see if this is a good fit for maybe my current kids that are in the house or whatever. But it doesn't sound as fair to the kids, because then they're constantly being thrown everywhere to. Yeah.
And we want to set them up as best we can to go home successfully.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we are constantly team reunification until it's not a safe option anymore. And then we kind of transition into something else.
Right.
But there are people that think that fostering to adopt is the cheaper way to go about adoption, and it is not. If you are adopting out of the system, the cost is the same, whether you set up to adopt or you have a foster placement that just turns into an adoptive placement. So.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a part of you that maybe a lot of people don't really know a ton about. And as she said, if you have any questions about it, come find her. There's always part of it. Now, I'd like to talk about kind of your role in youth ministry now. That's kind of a newer role in your world, but I don't know if it was you or somebody asked me, they're like, is it because I moved into the executive pastor role, and people were like, oh, you got promoted. And I said, no, I did not get promoted. Because I truly believe that youth ministry is like one of the highest callings in a church. And that's just me. And maybe I'm hyping it up too much, but I feel like God called me into a different space, and it opened doors for people like John and yourself to come in and do youth ministry. What got you interested in youth ministry?
I grew up in the church, and I have deeply loved youth ministry, just participating in it. All throughout college, I was a small group leader at the church I was at. Like, I loved it. I loved having someone in my life growing up that I knew I could count on, as far as my small group leader was or my youth group leader was. So I loved having spaces where I could be that for somebody else. But also, like, it's just fun to hang out with kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're just a good time. They're not
fun.
kids. I'm sorry. With our youth. My mistake.
Young people.
With my young people. My younger people.
Yeah. All right. I know most people who come into youth ministry have youth group stories from their past. And because I value good youth ministry stories, having several of my own, but also watching people who, like, experience theirs, tell me, what's your like best youth group story?
Are we talking me as a leader in youth group or me as a
Either or.
a child?
Just the first one that pops is like,
Listen, my favorite one was I was pretty new to the youth group that I was leading in at that point, and we were going to summer camp, and I was asked to drive one of the 12-passenger vans, and I was so pumped. So we're going up to Tennessee to this cabin that's in the mountains, and the GPS took us to the wrong place. And so our giant van that is full of youth and our stuff is like going up this really steep hill. And I was like, oh my gosh, this van is not going to make it. We can't do this. And so we finally get to the top of the hill, and there's some of our other youth leaders, and they were like, oh no, this is the wrong spot. I said, what do you mean this is the wrong spot? And they were like, the GPS took us to the wrong place, so we have to go back down this hill. And I was thinking to myself, we will never make it down this hill. The brakes are going to go out. This is it for us. Like, ooh. And so the other van asked for us to give them like a 5-minute start to go down the hill, and then we follow behind them. So I prepped the kids in my car. He said, listen, guys.
It's your time to die.
We have 5 minutes. And honestly, this might be our last time on this side of heaven. So what I would like to know is what song you would like to listen to as we are going out. And the group, which was a mix of boys and girls and middle and high schoolers, all decided that Beyonce's Halo was going to be our outro. So we put it on in the van, and we are all just singing our hearts out, going down this mountain while secretly praying to the good Lord that these brakes are better than we think that they are. And we made it to the bottom of the hill, but every time we got in the car, they were like, this song is sacred. Put on Halo. We'll be just fine.
The great theologian Beyonce.
And that, yes, is honestly one of my most favorite youth memories.
Okay.
It was solid.
Now, do you have a crazy game in mind? Because youth pastors are known for expanding upon games sometimes to a crazy degree.
To a crazy degree.
Well, I'm just saying that's what some youth pastors do. Do you have a game that like sticks out in your brain of like, here, for instance, one time I thought it would be a good idea to do this as part of a sermon illustration. Is I went to Wendy's and I got a Happy Meal or the kids meal with a Frosty because you need a liquid. And I decided to blend them all together and make the kids drink it. Now, I've done worse concoctions for kids to drink, but I think Nick Boker was scarred from this. He talks about this quite often. And it's just one of those crazy things that youth pastors do. Do you have one that pops up in your head?
Do I have a story of being scarred by a youth group game? Because yes, I do.
Ooh,
as a matter of
tell
fact.
me.
in middle school, we had started going to a new church, and I was like, I'm going to be a good participant and go to the D Now weekend that we're all having.
Ooh, fun.
So I'm meeting all of these people at our church for the first time. And lo and behold, they decide to do this fun activity to teach us a little bit more about the rapture, because that's not scary at all. So in a van, we are dropped off at the front of these people's driveway. I don't know these people, and the grass is like super grown up on either side of the driveway. There is one person at the front, and when we are let out of the van, we are told that our goal is to make it to the bonfire that's like a mile back. And you can like see the flames, but it's really far. And then we're given 3 bands to go on our arms. And we were told that as we make our way to the fire, people would be coming out of the grass to ask us if we believe in Jesus Christ. And we could answer yes and lose a band, or say no and keep our band. If we saw them coming fast enough, we could all circle up and pray, and they couldn't touch us if we were praying. So the first person jumps out, and they ask if you believe in Jesus Christ, and I was like, I don't feel like I can say no, but also I would like to keep my bands because I don't know what happens if I lose them all. I ended up losing all 3 of my bands, and the person that took my last band ran me sideways away from the fire, shoved me into like a horse stall in a barn where there was all of the other youth group kids, and they were just like throwing water on us. It was awful, and I was very confused about what was happening. And eventually they let us out, and we made it to the fire, and we saw the people there with their 3 bands, and the pastor made sure that the people who denied Jesus understood that they would be going to hell. And that those of us who had incurred the stressful of having to go to the horse barn were more than likely secured a place in heaven. And I was like, I don't think that's how this works. I'm really not sure, but this game is not.
Wow.
So,
I feel like I should have stepped my game up more after hearing this game.
no, you should not. No, you should not. If people ask me if I believe in Jesus, it's like PTSD. I do wholeheartedly, and I would lose a band again, but that was very stressful.
That
Not
is
ideal.
wild.
Not ideal. No.
Wow.
Good times.
I don't have a follow-up question. That is insane. What denomination was this?
Oh, that was a Baptist church.
Okay.
Baptist church.
That makes a
through and
little
through.
more. You know what? I was a part of a thing called Judgment House with a Baptist church, and I played the character God. And the whole premise was that the people who were going through this is like a Christian haunted house where their friend
That sounds
got killed.
terrible.
This was like my first thing I ever did as a youth at a church, because I just went with a friend. So yeah, that happened.
How did it feel getting to play God, though?
Okay, until it was like, oh, you have to condemn this person to hell. And I'm like, depart from me. I never knew you. You know what I mean? Like, I still, and Creed, My Own Prison. Every time I hear it, like, I go back to that moment of like seeing the person come through. Anyway.
The weird things that scar us.
I know. Church was weird back in the day. Well, so to kind of wrap this up, I guess, I would like you to kind of express kind of what is your dream for the youth group here? Like if everything worked out ideally, what are you pushing for?
What am I pushing for? When I first started this, my big thing was that I wanted our youth group to be like a place of belonging and a place that people felt safe in. And then being there, I realized our group actually already does that really well. So if I needed to create a new goal for them, I was like, what would it be? And it honestly is that I want our youth group to be a space for them to come and find Jesus where they are and meet him where they are. Because the way that I've met Jesus isn't the way that they're going to meet Jesus. Yeah. So creating a space in our youth group to be a safe place for them to actually find God and who he is to them is really what I would like to see happen in our group. Because they're a really good group. They really do love the Lord. They are there to welcome other people in. It's just a fun crew to be with. So if I can keep creating spaces for them to get to know God better and for them to get to see all the aspects of who he can be for them, I feel like we would be winning.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's awesome. And I think it's well said. And I'm excited. You know, I think even now having a daughter, your niece, you know, in the program, it's great to hear because I would want her to find God in the way that she's going to experience. You know what I mean? And it's going to be different for me. You know, like I said, I had a random friend who invited me, and it just became something I grew into it, and it might be totally different for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be fun. That's cool. Well, Sarah, we are just about out of time, but I want to let everybody know that Sarah recently was really mean to me. Oh. And
it was not mean. We were welcoming you home. Let me just go ahead and say it was from a place of love.
She was welcoming me home with the help of Pastor Dave, who I thought was my boy, and Nick Boker, who I also thought was my boy. And they decided to wrap my room, my office. I mean, I'm talking like books on my bookshelf. I'm talking my computer monitors, my mouse, individually wrapping my pens and pencils, and then proceeding to fill up balloons and stuff like that. And because of that, Sarah, I have...
No.
I'm just joking. Okay. See, it's a mental game. I'm playing a mental long game, but know that something will be coming.
Hey, yep. I feel it in my bones.
Publicly stating something is coming.
Oh, no.
But you will not know the day nor the time.
Oh, good. Good.
Are you nervous?
Yep. We're fine.
That's all I wanted to do. Anyway,
okay.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was a good time and maybe not the last time we'll see you, but thanks for sharing your heart a little bit. Thanks for kind of letting us get to know you some. And everybody, go introduce yourself to Sarah. If you've met her before, give her a high five, a hug, say hello again. If you never have, go say hi to her.
Come say hi.
She's awesome, and we're super glad you're here. But for those of you in the podcast, if you have any questions for Sarah, you could submit them to our email at deepdive@hickoryflat.org. You could drop them in the comments below this video as it's posted on Wednesday. And other than that, Sarah, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
If you would like to pray for me in this feud that's happening, I would greatly appreciate all of the prayers. Yeah, that's how I'd like to end this, is in prayer.
Is in prayer. Just like your story. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We always appreciate you being here and giving us a little time. Take care.